Hey guys, this is Kara, and I'm back for another week's installment of crazy things I've been thinking about. And so, kind of as an English teacher, an avid reader, and also someone that loves shows and good movies, epic stories, I think a lot about roles and the different characters and what position they take in the story and their transformation. And so I wanted to talk today a little bit about three common mindsets that I'm kind of seeing online and when I talk to people. And I think these are perfectly natural in children's ministry right now. And this applies to other places as well. But I'm specifically, reaching out to my Kidmin leaders, friends, to have a different kind of conversation about kind of the things that have been going through our mind lately. About where the problems might be and how we feel. I think at the bottom of it all, we feel a little bit out of control. Like, we are working really hard. We might even be working harder than ever. And we feel like the results that we're getting are very small. And so I see us trying to encourage each other online. And some of this, I wonder, is coming back to the position of the kind of important characters in our story on Sunday and what kind of roles we're giving them. And so let me see if I can make that a little bit clearer. So let's think about kind of the three major kind of groups outside of ourselves on Sunday morning, who we think about, right? So first and foremost, we would think about the kids. Because it's kids ministry, that's our target audience. That's who we're trying to appeal to, right? And then we also then have volunteers, because in order to take good care of those kids, and to help them learn about Jesus in the best way possible, we need volunteers. And then the other kind of shareholder or kind of big part of the story besides ourselves would be parents. Hopefully you can see all this, right? So, oops, you can kind of see over there, that's parents, right? So I think that you might have thought this. I've been tempted to at times, and I've definitely kind of been seeing these kind of echoes and trends online. So maybe you've kind of thought since the pandemic, especially, hey, kids are the problem on Sunday. Maybe their behavior, which has been a little bit different. I feel like we were already seeing some trends. I've mentioned this in another video. If maybe 5 years ago, one or two kids had a problem sitting down and listening, now we've only got one or two kids in a room that can actually do that. So there's kind of that extreme. And then we've also got kind of an extreme sometimes of them being withdrawn and not seeming to want to be there, bored. So maybe we kind of think in the back of our mind, hey, kids are the problem. They've changed today. Those video games, those, it's kids are the problem. Or maybe, like a lot of us right now with having so few volunteers, we kind of catch ourselves saying, hey, volunteers are the problem. Like they don't get it. They're not stepping up. If only they would listen, or only if they would take ministry seriously, or whatever we're kind of thinking there. So our lack of volunteers, people getting it, people supporting kids, this thing that we've given our lives to, that's the problem. Or, this one's kind of related to this one a little bit, but hey, it's parents' problem, because they're hitting the easy button, especially now with so many live services and things. They can just, push play and watch from home and couch their PJs with a warm drink. And let's be honest, that's pretty appealing to all of us on Sundays, if it wasn't our job to be here on Sunday morning. But also then with parents, we think, hey, they're prioritizing. I hear this a lot. They're prioritizing everything except for church. And what is that teaching their kids, kind of thing. And so I wanted to take for a second, so in all those cases, three common mindsets: kids, volunteers, parents, kind of, hey, they're the problem, or maybe all of those things, right? What if we changed kind of those mindsets? And what if we shifted our thinking a little bit? And so one of the things that I had a mentor tell me one time was to kind of keep my hands open and to stay curious, like to ask questions, to not assume that I knew the answers. And that's easier said than done sometimes, but let's say that we were just going to be curious for a second. And so for kids, yes, they actually have changed their brains, their chemistry, everything from video games and from Netflix binging and from all the things in their world have actually changed them in some core ways that makes it harder for them to sit still, especially maybe in church or if we're doing more traditional kind of things. And hey, let's put ourselves in volunteer situations right now. Some volunteers are older, some are worried about their health, some have been doing this a long time. Younger parents that maybe we're trying to recruit, A lot of them don't feel comfortable. We have a lot of teachers that are retiring. I was thinking about this the other day. That's a big shift just in our workplace as a whole. We have less teachers. And even right now, things are so hard for teachers that a lot of them are retiring. And so, our parent volunteers that we might look to, they might not feel qualified. They might not feel like, honestly, in their core, and I felt this as a parent, we're worried, hey, like, I'm not doing a good job. How could I go in and tell somebody else's kids about Jesus or do that well? And so it might come down to kind of confidence or that teacher idea. They don't feel qualified for that position or that role. So even though, and I have to apologize to the volunteers at my church, I was having a hard time hearing this because I kept thinking, I don't need you to be a teacher. I'm going to be a leader. We're doing all this for you. But when I actually looked in the classroom and stayed curious, I realized they still felt the weight and the responsibility of getting through all the activities and dragging kids to the next activities and teaching them the Bible. And they took it seriously and it was stressing them out. And then parents, kind of related to what we were just talking about, they feel maybe super tired. They might now have had work shifted home, which means it bleeds over into everywhere. Their resources might feel really low. And just like all of us, an easy button, or so fighting their kids to go to church, multiple kids usually in some cases or whatever, might be like a pretty daunting task. And then I think the other thing is, like, I hear like we blame like soccer games or sports or things. And my big challenge on that mindset would be, what is it about a soccer game or even video games like we were talking about? What is it about those? There's whole books, there's research available to us on why those things are so addictive and why when they're done well, like a sport or something or an extracurricular like dance, why that builds a kid up and why they feel sold out and why a parent likes to go and watch. We can tap into some of those same things. And so that's what I want to talk about the most. I think the answer to all of these problems is our environment. It's not the kids, it's not the volunteers, it's not the parents, it's our environment. It's our setup, it's our system, it's how we run things. And so we could change people's role, and I think we could change our outcome and our energy. And so let me talk to you a little bit about what that looks like kind of in my environment. And so I really shifted in a big way. That kids were at the center of everything. I started looking, I had said I had done that before, but really, truly, how do I tap into the kind of learners they are now? How do I use gamification, things that video games and other places use, to lead them to learning and engaging in truths about God and Jesus? The whole point of why we're here. I could use some of those same strategies, and I could turn kids into heroes on a quest. And so that's what I did. And with volunteers, I started listening to them. I started realizing that they were like feeling allergic to the word teacher or even leader. They did not want to be a leader. They kept saying the word helper, but it took me a long time to start realizing, oh, that's really what they mean. And so in my environment, I literally make them helpers, guides on the side, not people in front, not people doing the heavy lifting, not feeling responsible to get through everything, not feeling like they're the ones that have to teach the Bible and that they're not qualified for this. Okay. And we'll talk a little bit more about where that Bible piece is coming in just a second. And on the parent thing, again, giving back to environment, I could affect everything by making an environment so engaging that kids were dragging their parents to church. Right. And so that set out to be kind of my goal. How do I change my system? How do I change my environment so that everyone has a different role on the bus? And it worked. It worked incredibly well. And so I just want to challenge you that while you're thinking this week about ministry, while you're thinking about your next month, and even as we're starting to go into all these holidays, because hear me, I know that it's like a downhill slide. By the time we hit Halloween in just a couple weeks, and then we've got Thanksgiving right after that and Christmas, it's going to be quick. We're going to blink. And so just to start thinking about in these minds, and when you're there on Sunday walking around, or maybe you're in the thick of it right now, you're in the middle of it, you're like, here, I don't have to walk far, right? I want you to look at everybody's roles and see if they're being set up to win. And so one of the things I did with my volunteers and with my kids is that I started rewriting my activities with kids in mind, literally written to them to simplify it. And then for volunteers, I gave them tips and tricks, simplified, to support the work that was already going here. And I gave kids choices. And I put them with a partner so that they had an ally as they were questing around and doing station work. I did a whole bunch of things to get these guys focused only on one thing so that they'd feel successful during their time and they'd have fun, right? And then let's add the Bible to this, because I don't want you to think that I have forgotten about that at all. So if we add the Bible, let's add it right here. I really think that for me, and you can argue this, but for me, the Bible being told by the volunteers, they were feeling very intimidated by that. And so in my environment, we've changed to where before we do our station work, where kids are in 2s and 3s and partners, and they're going around to this epic quest of stations that I have set up that are designed for them, with volunteers waiting to interact with them. And we can talk more about that. The Bible, I picture that of, have you ever ordered shoes from Zappos? Like there's a debate right now in the Kidsman world. I'm sure you've heard it. And, you know, it's like people are moving curriculums and they're like, I need something deeper. And I kind of question what they mean by deeper. And when I try to like look and I try to ask people, I really do get where that's coming from. They want to make sure that we're giving kids challenging, you know, enough things. But kids are really concrete learners. And I think in all my kind of research and in education world, you don't actually hear people talk about deeper, like deep and wide as much as you hear about closer. Okay. And so I feel like I was asking God for an analogy. Last time I gave you the splash zone. This time I'm kind of talking to you about the Zappos like shoes or museum analogy. So go with me just for a second. So if you click on Zappos and you find a pair of shoes you like and click on it, there's always a video by one of the Zappos incredible customer service people, and they're holding up the shoe. And they turn it this way and that, and they zoom in and they give you a play-by-play of all the features of this amazing shoe from all different angles. And as you're watching, you can't help but think, do I like that? You're comparing to other shoes you've had. You're thinking about your current needs. Hey, will that work for this situation or that situation? There's this ongoing, as they're showing you the shoe in depth from all angles, you're trying to figure out what part of that applies or is relevant to you. And if it moves you kind of to action to, you know, buy the shoe, right? And actually put it into your own world. And so I want to challenge us that for the Bible, whether it's through a live telling, if you have that, or if yourself, your curriculum gives that, or whether it's a well-done video. Kids are all of us have very much gotten into a video kind of world. So they're very used to that. But past that live telling of the Bible story or the reading of it or the video, and again, our production value has to be high here. We have to, you know, use object lessons and things like that to really capture a kid's interest. And we're going to talk about that in another webinar, kind of the brain research and things like that. But the other kind of cool thing I wanted to leave you with is, in my scenario, like when kids come on Sunday, when they're walking into this epic quest where they're already kind of the heroes, the very first thing we do is a short version of the Bible story. So they're set up. And then they go into all these stations, which if this was the hero's journey, which is kind of like a diagram people use to talk about characters like in an epic story. So the kids, you know, come on and then here's kind of the known world. And in our case, you know, this is like outside of church. And then this right here is the special world. This is the unknown. And this is kind of what we're inviting them to. And in kids ministry, I think of this like, hey, we're inviting them kind of to God's kingdom, Jesus's kingdom, what he talks about, the way we're supposed to live. And we're looking at the Bible for clues in those characters and those people, how they lived, and then taking it into our life. And so if we went back to that shoe, the idea is being able through all these activities, which in the hero's journey, they pass over from the known world into the known world, and they start having all these challenges. And so that's what I see my stations and my tasks as, all these challenges that they have to meet. And they need those volunteers. And so they're excited to go to these different stations. And now, instead of a volunteer trying to keep, you know, herding cats, getting their attention back, guys, listen, hey, let's go do this next. The kids want their help. And so we changed their role to be a helper, which is what they've been asking for, at least in my church. That's what they want. They want to be a helper. And we've turned kids into heroes. And this whole thing is a quest on Sunday morning. And in these challenges, that's where they're getting a chance to practice their faith skills, talking to Jesus. And like that shoe, they're getting to look at that Bible story and those characters and apply it to their life, to go in close and look at it from all sides and see how it fits with their world. And when this is all done, there's a reward. And the reward, is the kids' engagement and their excitement, all the things they've learned, and that they're transforming. The whole idea of the hero's journey is that a hero on their quest is getting changed. If there is no change in a kid, then there's no real learning. There's no learning that's going to stick. And so these kids, as the day ends up and they start heading back out, and we actually do tangible rewards with STORE that's kind of embedded from completing challenges and tasks. They actually get a reward here as well. But then when the parents come to pick up, right? When the parents come to pick up, we can actually change their role to them being allies. And their job is to continue it at home. Continue the adventure, continue the things that we've been talking about in the Bible, and to build on that, because they have way more time in a week than we did. But our experience, this whole interwoven experience that we set up, starting with this small Bible story, then all these challenges where kids are trying to personalize it and figure out how it fits into their life, and talking with helpers, volunteers who are a little bit further in this journey with God than them. And they've got partners, they've got allies as well with kids, because they're paired up as they do all this. And then there's tangible rewards, like concrete rewards, like a STORE. And we also know that there's life change that's happening through the Holy Spirit, and that God says that his word doesn't return empty. And then we're giving them back to parents who can tell that their kids are excited and engaged, because their kids are dragging their parents to church. They're not letting them hit the easy button anymore. And then parents are more motivated to partner with us, or to even, I have more parents serving than ever in this environment, in this setup, to be a helper, where they get more comfortable having these conversations with kids and having fun with them and tying it back to the Bible, which is the ultimate guide, the ultimate mentor in our lives. And we're giving it this high spot in our environment so that the learning from the Bible is all connected and all through this. It's super exciting. And so I have actually worked out everything that I've done in a course. It's 4 weeks. I kind of call it, hey, relaunch your KidMin in 28 days. In 4 weeks, you could actually, I would walk you through this hero's journey and how I've changed my Sundays to be epic quests with kind of these different roles for people, and changing kind of the energy. And so there are a lot of things that you can't control. But I would challenge you that the one thing that you can control and set up every week is your environment. And if you change your environment, and if you change the format and how it flows, I can promise you, and if you see the roles clearly and define them so that they fit these different people better, you will experience massive results. I have more kids coming. I have more volunteers signing up to serve. The energy, it is controlled chaos, but the energy is crazy. And for the first time in a long time, I have parents emailing me, not just that their kids are excited, but also that they're actually remembering and they're applying what they're learning, which is our whole goal. So if you want more information about my 4-week course, I'm running a beta group or a pilot group. I'm only taking 5 to 10 people. I only have a couple spots left. I've still got a couple more meetings signed up with people. I'd love to talk to you about it. I have an email with more information. And so if you want to leave me your email in the Facebook Messenger, I will return your message, and we could see if this would be a good fit for you. Thank you so much.